I'm not a clinic guitar. You want me to do it, please? I'm not a clinic guitar.
All right, so this is still considered a splinting procedure, okay? So think of this as you're splinting the spine to this
Dang it.
large splint. Okay, so just to
Get a
kind
close-up
over,
of his booty.
so if you don't have the expensive spider straps that most medics and stuff carry, look, triangular bandage is so universal, you can even use it as the straps to secure the person to the board. Okay, and then you have the headpiece, the rubber headpiece, right, that's padded. So if you're wearing a helmet, the helmet's not going to slip around on this plastic surface. And then you have the cervical block. All right, so you can see where this just sits right next to their head, providing more stability. Okay. All right, so we have our victim. Right, so it doesn't matter what hand we're working. Let's just assume he has no helmet, he has no shoulder pads, it's not motocross, okay? So you're assessing the scene, okay? The scene is safe, you know, everything's cleared out. Putting on our universal precautions. We know that we're working extreme sports or some type of event where this can happen, so we have a spine board ready. So we're bringing it with us along with our med kit, which will have the cervical collar in it. Okay. Again, first thing, hey, you okay? See if he's conscious. Okay, then he's conscious, right? So still, we want to call 911, get an AED. Okay, so again, just state that. Hey, you okay? Yeah, he's okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Amy, go call 911 and get an AED. Here we go. So now we want to go into basically our PMSC of the spine. So, what's going on? What hurts?
My back.
So, okay, your back hurts.
My neck.
Your back and your neck. So maybe we didn't see the accident, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, let's just say Alex on our team.
Forgot your calves, Peter.
Immediately, his neck hurts. All right, Alex, can you just go ahead and hold his neck there in neutral? So he might be in neutral, so all Alex is going to do is stay up the head the whole time and just make sure he doesn't move his head around when we're doing any type of water procedure. Right? If he's sideline, just do a C1 toggle, and then
Just adjust him
good.
out.
Right, so Alex is just there to make sure when we start moving him that he's not trying to look around, right? So now we can just ask, can you move your arms? Yeah. Can you move your legs? Good. Okay. You feel me touching you here? Yeah.
Tickle monster.
Feel this? Yeah. Which leg am I touching? Which leg am I touching? Left. Which leg am I touching? Right. Okay. Right. So just go through mainly motor and sensory. You don't need to do pulse, okay? But just think of the acronym PMSC when you're doing spinal cord injury assessment. Okay. So motor, sensory. Okay. Good. So now we want to get on the collar. Okay. So with these collars that we have today, they're cheap. Okay. Typically, if you have a collar in your med kit, it's going to be an adjustable collar. That way you can measure. So the way you measure a collar is with the plastic portion. Okay. You're just going to use fingers, right? First, what you're measuring for is the distance between the trap to the mandible, right? So the angle of the jaw. So on Peter, you're just going to put your fingers down. Okay, just to check. And he's about a 2, right? So you would have your adjustable, move it to 2, then you have your hard cervical collar. Right, so Alec will still be on the head the whole time. Right, and then
Once you're at the head, you never let go of the head. You don't let go until the very end. Now when you slide this in, so we've created it, you're going to have this. We know how the collar is going to go. This is the spot for the chin. So it's going to go like this. So you know that. So what you will do is slide this part underneath because Alec is not going to let go of the neck there. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to slide this underneath his head. And again, these are fun. They work really well. So then once I've got that through, now I can pull this over and immobilize to the chin, and then we can secure it up this way.
You guys don't watch this thing, right?
No, of course not. So now we've got our cervical collar is on. Alec will still maintain immobilization of the C-spine. At this point, you want to go through and get him onto the spine.
Okay, so now we'll use our log roll technique. Okay, so we'll just hold his arms in here like this. Okay, and again, this is assuming that there's, we're throwing out any complications with fractures in the lower extremities or in the extremities, bleeding, anything like that. Okay, so this is just a procedure of spine boarding, getting through a log roll, and applying the C-spine. Right?
Now, ideally, in a spine boarding situation, there's more than 2, there's more than 3. Because with 3 of us, it's going to be very challenging to do this effectively, properly. So ideally, you want at least 4. Because when you go to roll, you've got 1 at C-spine. And when you go to roll, you want at least 2 people rolling. You want a 4th person, or a 3rd person in that scenario, to be able to then load the spine board underneath the patient so that you don't have to do more of the movement.
Cool. All right, so now what we'll do is so assuming there's just 3 of us, Alec again is on the head, we'll line up the spine board to where when we roll him on, his head will be perfectly on that pad.
That's the key, the head. We don't care if his feet are hanging off. Head is more important.
Okay, and then Eric will come around here. So we can bring his legs closer together here. Right, so Alec's going to keep his head in neutral. Right, so I'm grabbing shoulder and just below his hip, and then Eric is crossing over his arms, and actually, well, it doesn't matter. We won't. So we'll hold it here. Otra doesn't need to be there, but if he is, thank you. No, it's good. So if you have another person, they can slide it. Right? So the person at the neck is the one counting it. Okay. So he'll count to 3. We're gonna roll Peter. Okay. 1, 2.
Why are you laughing, Peter?
Okay, so we're just gonna roll him.
Now, when you have them here, another thing you can do, if you have an extra person, you want to expose, right? Part of our ABCD, yada yada. You can cut the shirt open and look at the back. This isn't going to be practical in a sporting situation because there's probably not going to be injuries there. But if you're reporting to a car accident, something like that, you have no idea what's going on in the back. Cut open the shirt, expose the back. What if they've got a piece of glass stuck in there? And then we roll them back onto the spine board and you're just digging that in more kind of thing. That's something you want to be able to know. Not practical in a sporting situation, but do be aware of that.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff's going to be situational, okay? We just want to make sure you guys know the basics. The biggest thing is that you're keeping cervical spine in neutral, right? You're rolling together, okay? So once we have them up, okay, you can go into all that additional examination, but you don't need to do that for the purpose of this class. Just show that you can log roll, bring the board closer, it's tilted to about 45 degrees, okay? On Alex's count again, we're going to roll him back onto the board. 1, 2, 3, okay?
What if Otra wasn't there?
Okay, so if Otra wasn't there, all you do is roll him onto his side. He's on his side. I reach across. Just drag the board.
We can both, that's why we interlock. So it's like, I'll have my hand on the hips, and he'll take that hand to move. I can use my body to stabilize his lower extremity and use the other hand, so we can move it in together to make sure that it's in place.
Okay, so Peter is not on the board ideally, right? So now we got to move him. Every time you move, it's diagonal movements. Okay, so we're going to move him down first, so down into the right, and then up into the left. Okay. And again, everything's on Alex's count, so he's going to grab the legs as best he can. I'm just going to take his shoulders. So down to the right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And now he's pretty straight, so now we can just go straight up. Okay.